I wanted to ask you on the Italian perspective regarding migration policy. We know that this crisis of migration, as a humanitarian crisis, first of all, then as a political crisis, started in 2015, 2016, when Angela Merkel said those famous words, welcome,
Yeah.
and then immediately started talking about the failure of multicultural integration in Germany and in European Union. And then Donald Tusk a little bit later said, please stop coming because it's economically dysfunctional. And yet a bit later, in 2021, 2022, and now in 2023, Poland, Lithuania, and now Finland joined the same policy of turning around migrants uh, uh, on the basis of the policy that we do regard this as a Russian hybrid war, that it is organized criminal activity, that this is not simply spontaneous migration, uh, fleeing home countries from Syria, whatever terrible countries, but it's also a part of Lukashenko, Putin destabilization of the region, and then therefore it is turning around instead of accepting for interrogation, documents filling in, etc. What is the perspective from Italy? How do you see uh, different types of policy, different types of political attitudes towards migration issue? Because on the one hand, it is from the humanitarian point of view, every human being is a human being, and it's so difficult to separate where politics are and where human stories are. And but Moscow is playing with human rights values in European Union. What do you how do you see this?
Well, Italy is facing the problem of migration already since the 2000, something like that. Not a recent event, and for the time. If I have to refer to even to the debate that we have in Italy about migrations, Russia is never mentioned. So Russia is not apparently a problem for the simple reasons that the waves of the migrants that arrive to Italy, they arriving across the Mediterranean Sea. So they are arriving from Libya and Tunisia, or they are arriving from the Middle East, particularly from Turkey and Lebanon, through Greece, or circumventing Greece directly to Italy, or otherwise through the Balkan route, which means they go walking. They walk through Macedonia, and then initially it was to Serbia, but then they found close the borders of Hungary and Croatia. Then they move across Montenegro and Albania, Montenegro and Bosnia, and now they found close the border with Croatia, particularly because there is also a big and cold river, Una, on the border between Croatia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. They try several times even to cross this river, even swimming, but they die. Exactly as it happened on the Mediterranean Sea. You know, the Mediterranean Sea is now a cemetery. There are so many people died, so only one part of the people that are crossing the sea is arriving to Italy. Well, the great majority of the people that are arriving to Italy, they are arriving not from Africa, despite of the fact that the Italian government and the current Italian government is insisting on the fact that we have to help the development of the countries, sub-Saharan countries, in order to stop the fact that they go through the desert, and then they found the lagers in Tunisia and in Libya, where they are raped or subject to torture before then crossing the sea. Actually, there are people that are coming from mainly from Africa, is from Senegal, from Chad, from Eritrea and Ethiopia, but a great majority of the migrants are arriving even from Africa, but from Afghanistan, from Syria, from Iraq, from Pakistan, and Philippines also. So if you look from this point of view, you can see that most of the people that are moving to Italy are moving from countries that have been to a large extent destabilized by the United Nations, by the United States, sorry, like Afghanistan and Iraq, and they are crossing then, or Syria as well, or they are coming from across Libya and Tunisia, but not necessarily from Libya. They are from Tunisia, yes, this is true, and this is the great problem that also it's quite impossible to know, particularly for most of the migrants, where they are coming from, because they don't have documents. If they have, they threw away, because they don't want to be sent back to their own countries, which is a very problematic issue, because in order to send back these people to their own countries, you need not only to know where they are coming from, but also that the country, their own original country, will be ready to accept them. In addition, is extremely costly. It is approximately 2,500 euro per person to send them back. Because in order to send them back, you have also to send the police that accompany these people back to. So it's becoming quite problematic. Now, our right governments made an agreement with Albania, as you know, with Edi Rama, who is a socialist, by the way, and in order to build two lagers. Apparently, it's not clear, actually, because Meloni said two lagers, Edi Rama said only one. The agreement has been published in Albania, has not been published in Italy. In Italy, apparently, should be discussed in the government, in the parliament, although initially Meloni said that the document does not need a vote of the parliament. Although in Albania, the parliament ratified the document. So it's quite problematic, and it's unclear what happened between Italy and Albania. In any case, apparently, it seems that a lager will be created for sending maximum 3,000 migrants, but we have received this year more than 150,000 migrants. So I don't know what does it mean 3,000, because 3,000, they are closed there, and they have to wait the procedure in order to see whether they have right to be considered asylum seekers. This means that, as you can imagine, the Italian policemen will have to go to Albania and back with each of them when they have to be analyzed in front of the judges, which apparently may reject their own application, but at this point they can appeal. And if they can appeal, there is an additional time. So it's impossible that this can be done in a few months. This can be done maybe in 18 months, even more. And you have to consider that most of these migrants that arrive to Italy, they have a clear goal. They have friends, of parents, of relatives in other countries than Italy. Let's say in France, in Sweden, in Denmark, in Germany, in Britain. So they wanted to continue their own travel. It's not an army. It's individuals that have their own goal. And so in most of the cases, even if you close into these lagers, they will try to abandon this place, to disappear. And then you don't know where they go. They disappear because they are going to join their own friends, parents, relatives. You don't know, and even there is no control among the EU member states about these flows, because every country is concerned about their own security when they consider the problem of the migrant a security issue rather than an opportunity. Because if you know what is the background of these migrants, maybe they can be employed in areas where we need people, because this is true. We need to have people working in the hospitals, people working in tourism, people working in factories, because we don't have enough people because of the depopulation, and at the same time because we have an emigrant process of young, well-educated people from Italy. They are going outside Italy to Netherlands, to the United States, to Britain, to France. So this is a very complex issue, where it seems to me that the Italian government and the Italian political parties all together have very few clear idea how to face and how to manage this process, because this is not a process that will end in few years. This is a process that is going to affect the future of the European Union for decades in the future.
Stefano, more and more regarding these migration problems, more and more politics and as well analytics of policy, talking about the clash between global north and global south. This theory of a global clash sounds similarly to Samuel Huntington, you remember, the clash of civilizations. But I see that this new clash is even more simplistic than Huntington. Huntington, in a way, discussed about many of civilizations, and there we see just only two camps, south and north. This is the idea of I would say right-wing populists, and more right-wing populism becomes influential in EU in many of countries. The most significant case is in Netherlands. But in any way, this politics of very strong border lines, which mentioned and Thomas, in Baltic countries, in Finland, now in Croatia, you mentioned, and other countries or Hungary, which completely closed the borders for migrants, looks like an example for Central Europe, how to behave in this case as invitation, to restrict rights of these migrants, to change the policy, to turn to the right politics, What's your opinion about this? First, what is your opinion about this theory of clash between global North and global South? And the second question is, what do you thinking about this right-wing populism turn?
Well, maybe more than a clash, I would say a increasing skeptical relation of the global South toward the Western countries, not to the global North, but to the Western countries, which means the European Union and the United States of America, plus, if you want, Canada and Australia. This is the area, and New Zealand. This is the area of reference. The other one is the so-called Global South. Once it was called the Third World, but it doesn't matter. We are speaking more or less of the same area. I would say no clash because I don't see a perspective that can lead to a war. Even despite of the fact that a war is now in the Middle East, is a very serious situation that can include, maybe, but is for the moment, fortunately, it was contained between Hamas and Israel, but it can involve other Arabic countries, not only Lebanon, but also Jordania, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and other countries. So this can be very problematic, Syria, and so on and so forth. I would say, no, it's more skeptical. The Global South is looking at the North, and when they look at the rule of law, because you have mentioned the rule of law, they very often speak about double standards that have been applied by the North about different issues. Just to give you one example, for instance, now the West is speaking about the war in the Middle East, about two states and two peoples. But this is an old issue because about two states and two peoples, this has been discussed already several times in the past. But nothing has been made in order to ask Israel to stop the illegal transfer of people in the West Bank, Jews Bank, by creating kibbutz and other. And so, you know, when you look from the perspective, I don't think about the perspective of the Arabic countries, but South Africa, for instance. I have a friend of mine who was a judge in the both in the commission, in the True Commission in South Africa, and then in the ICTY in the Netherlands. And actually, I worked with him when I was a witness and an expert for the ICTY. And so we met even recently. He is living now again in South Africa, but he is saying that he is speaking very often about the double standards that the Westerners are using in several situations. There is another argument, for instance. It is true that all the countries, this has been confirmed, for instance, in the General Assembly, when the large majority of the countries voted in support of the protection and the guarantees of the borders of Ukraine on the basis of the borders of 1991. This is what no one wanted to put under discussion the stability of the borders, for instance, which is absolutely understandable. But then you have the president of Serbia, and the president of Serbia says, why I'm supporting Ukraine in his claim, why you don't support Serbia for his claim? Because Serbia has the right to be within the borders of 1991, so Kosovo is part of Serbia. And if you are not saying that, so there are some double standards from this. So this is a strong argument. How can the West reply? The West do not reply. The West simply try to send several times the representatives of the European Commission just to convince Vučić that he has to recognize the independence of Kosovo. And he doesn't want, because a large part of the population in Serbia is not ready to accept this. So this is the situation. So this is the reason why I don't think that we can speak about clash, because this can lead to an idea that a war can happen between the North and South. I would say still that is a question of skepticism, which is also something that concerns China, because despite of the fact of Taiwan and the tensions between China and Vietnam, China and the Philippines, for instance, about some islands here and there in the southern Chinese Sea, still I don't see China be prepared to a military operation. Also because the Americans are there, despite the tensions, they are talking each other. And it seems to me that this remains some sort of skepticism about the protection of the human rights by the Western countries. This is what it seems to me for the moment. You cannot predict what can happen in the future.
Yeah, and the second part of my question was about right-wing turn, in Europe,
yes.
Regarding this immigration problem. What do you see the threats here, or not just accidentally happen, contingent?
Yes. This is a very crucial point, because this can affect the future even of the reform of the treaties of the European Union. You have mentioned Netherlands. Netherlands is, for instance, one very concerning problem, because it is one of the founding countries of the European Union. It's true that we don't know which kind of government will be established in the Netherlands at this point. So we need to see which kind of alliances will be established. But there is no doubt that a key issue is related to the election of the new European Parliament. Sorry. I can.
So sometimes technology is disobedient.
Sorry.
It's okay. No problem, Stefano.
Yesterday, Piankovsky had the same problem with his mobile. He just threw it away on the sofa.
Yes. Yes. Now is the problem will not occur. Okay. Sorry for that.
So you discussed about the threats of right-wing, policy, and the European Union and future election into EU Parliament.
The European Parliament, yes. This will be a very important litmus test, if I can say, because at that point we will understand also at the level of the European institutions, what can happen, which kind of commission will be created, which kind of negotiation will be made between the European Council and the new Parliament. So this will have a great impact on the future of the European Union. And in my view, also, this will have a great impact on the negotiations about the enlargement, because now we are speaking about the enlargement, how to involve Ukraine, setting aside the Balkans. And I have to say that in the Balkans, this has been not accepted so easily. There are lots of disappointments because of the fast track that apparently has been made by the European Commission for Ukraine and Moldavia in comparison with the years and years of waiting that it has been imposed to Bosnia, to Montenegro, to Serbia, Albania, and North Macedonia. So there is a great disappointment in this sense, and this is again is raising the fear about the double standards. Now, we don't know even what can happen in Poland in the near future. I understood that the government, the party, the PIS party, has been as preparing a government to go to the parliament, even is a minority government. So what happens in Poland, in the relation within Poland, I don't know. I'm curious to see the evolution, but this is something that shows that not only in Slovakia and in Hungary, but also in the Netherlands, in Italy, and also we don't know what can be the future of Spain, because of the tensions between the current Sanchez government and the opposition related to Catalonia, because this is a question of tensions in Spain, but in which part of Spain? In the Castilian area in comparison with the Catalan area. So we don't know. We really face lots of troubles within the European Union, where the migrants are one of the issues, but I don't think that it can be used among the various tensions, but there are other issues that are affecting the solidarity within the European Union. This is a key issue, and this solidarity, for instance, might emerge again if there is no agreement about the future financial problems by the end of the year. You know that also this is a crucial point. Apparently a reform is expected also because Germany has decided to create a second budget, but we don't know what can happen from January 1st, actually. And so these are, for Italy, this is a crucial issue because we have a huge debt. It's true that the Italian debt is mainly a domestic debt, it's not an international debt. So it's debt towards the citizens, the Italian citizens. But still, this is might be a concern for other countries.
Yeah. You mean that some parts of Italy would like to split? Do you mean like in Renaissance Italy?
No.
Napoli from Milano?
No. There was a time when there was an idea on the contrary. Milano wanted to abandon Naples. Well, actually, for the moment, no. Although you have touched a very crucial point, because in the program of the current rightist government, there is a project for a differentiation of the autonomy among the regions of Italy. This project has been already, I would say, made furious the regions in the south, because they fear that the budgets that will be allocated on the regions according to their own GDP, to their own development, will be an action that will reinforce Lombardia, Veneto, and Emilia-Romagna, but not the regions in the south. So they are very opposing, and this is a very important point. The regions in the south are not necessarily leftist regions. They are all leftist and rightist regions against this project that will, let's say, made some advantages to the regions of the north. Doesn't matter whether they are rightist or leftist government. So it's not a question of political division between rightists and leftists, but it's a territorial division between the north and the south. This can be a problem for Italy in the future when this proposal of reforms will arrive to the parliament to be discussed and approved.
Mm-hmm. And my last question is regarding the concept of European Union as a federation. And if I have understood correctly from your previous lectures and public speeches, you were the support of the idea for European Union as a federation. But now, when the war started in Ukraine, here in Lithuania and in Poland, we regard that war as Ukrainian protection of the European Union's project of that Ukrainians now are fighting not only for their sovereignty, but also for the peace project of the entire European Union. Because we think that if Ukraine loses, then Russia would move towards NATO and European Union's territory. And in that regard, it seems like nation states like Poland standing very firm with its notion what that war in Ukraine really means. It seems like an independent state with its voice, geopolitical voice, is very important. Does it mean that it somehow, not somehow, but very directly modifies the idea of EU as a federation, that maybe federation in this kind of war context doesn't work? What is your perspective on this?
Well, I don't think that the idea of federation is on the agenda of any of the government of the European Union in this moment, and not so much only because of the question of Ukraine, but I would say also because of Hungary, of now of Slovakia, of Poland, for the internal domestic, and even for Spain. So the domestic situation in certain countries doesn't make any option in support of a potential federation. Well, you may say that in this case, the idea of Macron of creating a differentiated level of integration among member states can be more realistic to be seen. This is something that might be more realistic, but in many countries this might be also considered a way out to exclude them from a process of equal treatment. And so I don't know, to be honest, what can be the future of all these events. In my view, we lost the train, if I can say, in 2002, 2003, when the convention for the European Constitution ended successfully the job by involving, by the way, also the candidate countries, Turkey included. and however the treaty was rejected by the referenda in the Netherlands and France. I think that from that moment onward, the ideas of greater integration, what has been called the deepening of the European Union, has abandoned. And if you remember, during the period of the negotiation even with your country, Lithuania, Latvia, during the period between 1997 and 2004, there was regularly a discussion about the deepening and the widening to see the two issues together. Now we are speaking only about widening, and widening as a fear. Because we have concern about the future of Russia, what can happen with Russia, what are the real war goals of Moscow, and so on and so forth. For this reason, we are more related to the fear rather than to a project of development of what was the European dream that was called by Americans exactly on the turn of the century, when they were thinking that the Europeans have discovered the way how to build peace after decades of wars and centuries of wars in Europe. And they were admiring this change and this competition between the American dream and the European dream. I think that this is now out of question in this moment. Maybe in the future, in other conditions, we can come back again to this topic, but it seems to me very difficult for the moment. We are too divided. We don't know to what extent populism and illiberalism will root into the concerns of the population towards migration, because migration is also seen something that can replace. This is typical of the Italian right parties, for instance. They are replacing the Italians, the migrants. They are replacing, like an invasion. Yeah, I have to say that everybody came into the Italian peninsula from the Roman Empire up to now. Everybody, and if we are the country with the highest number of UNESCO sites, is exactly because everybody came and put their own stamps into this peninsula. So instead of understanding that this can be a wealth, we have a fear, and a fear is also understandable, because lots of people are fear that their own identity or their own security, local security, environmental security will be affected by these new people that are coming, and you don't know whether they will learn the language, will accept the constitution, the laws that are existing. So this is understandable. And this creates a great concern. So I don't think that we can speak under this condition about a federation of Europe. It's a question maybe for the future. Europe in this moment, in my view, should work a lot for preserving what has been achieved and reinforcing the deepening within Europe. This is something that is very important for the functioning of the EU and the governance of the EU.
Well, thank you very much for your such extensive and deep answers on various these questions, and hopefully we will continue in the future such wonderful discussions. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you for inviting me.